Before I ever stepped into the spotlight, before the movies, fame, and the legend you think you know, there was a simple truth I learned alone in a quiet room. The greatest enemy you will ever face is not another fighter, not society, not even your past. It is your own untrained mind. I watched strong men break the moment fear entered their thoughts, and I watched average men rise because their spirit refused to collapse. When injury nearly ended my journey, doctors told me I would never return to who I was. But instead of surrendering, I turned inward. That was the moment I understood that the body follows the mind, and when the mind becomes unshakable, nothing can defeat you. Today, I will share 10 forbidden rules that helped me build a mind no doubt, fear, or force could break. These were not learned on a stage, only through pain, silence, and deep reflection. If you listen closely, you may begin to see that the strongest version of you has been waiting inside all along. Be water, my friend, and let us begin. 1. Stop believing every thought you hear inside your head. Most people move through life assuming that every thought entering their mind carries truth. They hear a whisper of doubt saying they are not capable, or a quiet voice predicting failure, and they immediately bow to it as if that thought were a ruler with unquestionable authority. They never stop to ask where that thought came from, whether it is real or whether it deserves their obedience. When I faced the deepest physical challenges of my life, especially after my back injury when doctors told me I might never perform the same way again, my mind tried to convince me that my journey was over. It spoke in the language of fear and limitation, painting pictures of defeat. But I learned through experience that thoughts are not facts. They are temporary shapes formed by memory, conditioning, emotion, and fear. They drift through the mind like clouds passing across the sky, changing, dissolving, and reforming. If you accept every thought blindly, you become a prisoner of illusions created by your own mind. A thought gains power only when you surrender to it. Imagine a stranger approaches you on the street and says, "You are worthless." You would likely question their judgment, challenge their words, or ignore them completely. Yet when your own mind whispers the same insult, you accept it without hesitation. This is the trap of the untrained mind. Most thoughts are not reflections of reality. They are reflections of past experiences, imagined futures, and unresolved fears. When the mind tells you that you will fail, pause and question whether that voice is speaking from truth or from the anxiety of facing something new. When the mind tells you that you are weak, challenge it by taking action rather than submitting. Thoughts are visitors, not masters. They come and go. You are the one who decides which ones may stay. When you learn to watch your thoughts without immediately obeying them, you reclaim the power to choose your direction. I learned to let thoughts pass like clouds, some dark, some light, but none able to control me unless I allowed them. This is where true mental strength begins, not by eliminating thoughts, but by refusing to kneel before them. When you stop believing that every thought is true, you free yourself. You transform your inner world from a battlefield of doubt into a place of clarity and control. The mind will always speak, but you must decide which voices are worth listening to.
2. Turn pain into your teacher, not your master.
Pain is one of the most misunderstood forces in life. Most people see it as a threat, something to escape immediately, something that has come to destroy their peace. Because of this belief, they run from it, numb themselves, or try to pretend it does not exist. But avoiding pain does not make life easier. It only makes the mind weaker. When I suffered my major back injury, the physicians who examined me believed my journey in martial arts had reached its end. Their words were heavy, and at first, The pain felt like a door slamming shut. But instead of allowing it to define me, I sat with it, studied it, and asked what it came to teach. In that quiet space between pain and response, I discovered one of the greatest truths of my life. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is a messenger. It reveals what must be strengthened, what must be healed, and what must be transformed.
People often forget that pain has shaped every strong person they admire. Think about the strongest tree in the forest. It does not grow strong because the weather is gentle. It grows strong because storms have tested its roots, forcing them to dig deeper into the earth. The same is true for a human being. When you shield yourself from discomfort, you remain shallow. When you face pain with awareness, you grow roots of resilience that cannot be shaken. Pain teaches you where your weaknesses are. It shows the parts of yourself you fear to confront. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That shift alone transforms suffering into growth. Pain is a mirror. It shows you your limits, and if you are willing to look honestly, it offers you a path to surpass them. When training, I pushed my body beyond what it believed possible. Not because I enjoyed suffering, but because pain revealed areas I needed to improve. Without pain, I would have stopped growing long ago. Pain taught me patience, taught me discipline, and taught me to rebuild myself stronger than before. Most people treat pain as a master, allowing it to dictate their choices. They stop pursuing their goals the moment discomfort appears. But if you see pain as a teacher, you do not collapse. You observe, learn, and adapt. If you allow pain to dominate your mind, it will shrink your world. But if you choose to learn from it, pain expands your inner strength. You begin to see that pain is not a wall blocking your path. It is a doorway leading to a higher version of yourself. The mind becomes strong not by avoiding difficulty, but by facing it directly. When you stop running from pain and instead let it guide you, you discover that every struggle contains a lesson, every setback holds wisdom, and every wound can become a source of power. This is how pain transforms from an enemy into a lifelong teacher, one that shapes you into someone capable of standing firm in any storm. 3. Do not argue with people who refuse to understand you. One of the most exhausting and mentally damaging habits a person can fall into is trying to convince others who have already decided not to understand. Many people waste their inner strength explaining themselves to those who are committed to misunderstanding, debating with those who only want to win, or seeking approval from minds that are closed. When I was developing my philosophy and training methods, countless individuals criticized me. They said my approach was strange, too fluid, too untraditional. Some wanted to challenge me not because they were genuinely curious, but because they wanted to protect their own beliefs and pride. If I had tried to argue with every one of them, I would have wasted valuable time and energy that could have been used to refine my art and strengthen my mind. I learned early that not every opinion deserves your attention, and not every critic deserves your response. When someone is unwilling to understand, no amount of discussion will change their mind. They are not listening to learn, they are listening to defend. It is like speaking to a wall and expecting it to grow ears. You exhaust yourself while they remain exactly as they were. This is why arguing with the unwilling is a silent trap. It feels like progress because you are talking, explaining, standing your ground. But in truth, nothing is happening. You are simply allowing them to pull your energy downward. Mental weakness is not just about letting fear control you. Sometimes it is about letting unnecessary battles distract you. Strong minds understand that not every challenge is worth engaging.
They know how to distinguish between a conversation that can create growth and a conflict designed only to drain strength. When I taught, I always welcomed questions rooted in curiosity. But when someone simply wanted to compare, belittle, or argue for the sake of ego, I quietly walked away. Silence does not mean surrender. It means wisdom. A lion does not waste time trying to convince sheep of its strength. If someone laughs at your path, let them. Their understanding is not required for your progress. The moment you stop chasing approval, you become free. You begin acting from conviction rather than seeking validation. You protect your mind from contamination by refusing to participate in pointless debates. Arguing with a closed mind is like trying to teach a fish to climb a tree. Even if you speak beautifully, nothing changes. Meanwhile, you are left tired, frustrated, and unfocused. Every minute spent defending yourself to someone who refuses to listen is a minute taken away from your growth. When you encounter such people, the best response is not anger or resistance, but stillness. Walk away without bitterness. Let your actions speak for you. Those who are capable of understanding will see. Those who are not are irrelevant to your journey. Mental strength grows when you learn to save your energy for what truly matters. Not every opinion demands an answer, and not every challenge deserves a fight. Sometimes the wisest move is to let silence be your voice, because silence often speaks where words fail. When you stop trying to convince others and instead focus on becoming the strongest version of yourself, your life becomes more peaceful, more purposeful, and far more powerful. 4. Discipline is stronger than emotion. Many people believe that success is born from passion, excitement, and motivation, but these feelings come and go like changes in the weather. One day you feel inspired and ready to conquer the world, and the next day you feel heavy, tired, and uninterested. If you depend on emotion to guide your actions, you will always live in an unstable world, constantly pulled in different directions. I learned early in my training that true mastery is not the result of doing things only when I felt like it. It is the result of showing up consistently, even on the days when my body resisted and my mind was restless. Discipline is the foundation of greatness. Emotion is only a visitor. When discipline governs your actions, you take control of your destiny. When emotion governs your actions, you become controlled by unpredictable internal storms. There were countless days when my body ached from training, when exhaustion weighed on my muscles, and when my mind begged for rest. In those moments, I discovered an important truth. Anyone can work hard when they feel good. The true warrior continues even when he doesn't. Emotion whispers excuses. It tells you to stay comfortable, to delay, to rest again, to stop because the moment is difficult. Discipline reminds you of your purpose, your promise, and your commitment to becoming something greater than you were yesterday. Discipline says, "You said you would do this. Now do it." It is the quiet voice that pushes you to continue when every part of you tries to retreat. This is what separates those who only dream from those who achieve. People often misunderstand discipline, thinking it is a form of punishment. But discipline is liberation. When you discipline yourself, you no longer rely on unstable feelings to decide your path. You create structure, clarity, and momentum. Discipline builds inner strength that emotion alone can never provide. Think of it like training a wild horse. The mind without discipline jumps everywhere, emotional, reactive, unfocused. Discipline is the rope that guides it, teaching it to move with purpose rather than impulse. Once the mind learns to follow discipline, it becomes powerful, stable, and capable of carrying you through any challenge. During my career, many praised the power and speed they saw in my movements. But what they did not see were the countless hours spent practicing the same motion repeatedly. Not glamorous, not exciting, simply disciplined repetition. While others trained until they were satisfied, I trained until I reached perfection and then continued beyond it. Discipline allows you to go deeper, to refine your craft, to unlock layers of skill you never knew existed. Without discipline, talent remains a seed that never grows. With discipline, even the smallest seed can become an unshakable tree. A life guided by emotion is inconsistent. One setback destroys motivation, one insult breaks confidence, one failure kills momentum. But a life guided by discipline is steady. Discipline allows you to stand firm even when the world becomes uncertain, even when people doubt you, even when difficulty tries to break you. Discipline teaches you that your word to yourself is sacred. When you keep your promises to yourself, you build self-respect, and that self-respect becomes a shield against fear, doubt, and failure. Emotion is a good companion, but a terrible leader. Let emotion inspire you, but let discipline lead you. When you learn to act regardless of how you feel, you unlock a level of strength that most people will never experience. That is when you stop being controlled by your inner storms and begin using your energy with intention. The mind that is disciplined becomes calm, focused, and unstoppable. And once you master discipline, there is no limit to what you can achieve. 5. Empty yourself so you can become something greater. Many people misunderstand what it means to empty yourself. When they hear these words, they imagine becoming passive, emotionless, or without identity. But emptiness is not about losing yourself. It is about freeing yourself from everything that blocks your growth. Think of a cup already filled to the top. No matter how pure or refreshing the water you try to pour into it, nothing new can enter because it is already full. The mind is the same. When it is full of assumptions, ego, rigid beliefs, fears, and old habits, nothing new can be learned. I realized this early in my journey. If I clung too tightly to what I already knew, I would never become anything more. True development begins when you create space within yourself for new understanding, new perspectives, and new possibility. When I trained, I observed many students who were desperate to prove they already knew enough. Their minds were noisy, overflowing with what they believed martial arts should be, rather than being open to what martial arts could become. They memorized forms, repeated techniques automatically, and defended their styles fiercely, yet they did not grow. They were skilled in form, but rigid in spirit. Their cups were full. I had to learn to empty myself, to let go of pride, to release judgment, and to dissolve certainty so I could absorb knowledge from any teacher, any style, any experience. This is how I evolved. By letting go of fixed identity, I became fluid enough to change. Emptiness does not mean that you lack ability or confidence. Emptiness means that you are always ready to learn, always ready to adapt. Imagine a river. It is powerful not because it holds still, but because it flows. It accepts new water, releases old water, and keeps moving. This movement makes it unstoppable. A person who insists on holding on to the same beliefs forever becomes stagnant. They repeat their past endlessly and never grow beyond it. But a person who empties themselves remains in motion. They take in wisdom from every direction, allowing themselves to evolve into something beyond what they imagined. Emptying yourself also requires releasing the ego. Ego is the internal voice that insists, "I already know." It is the barrier that blocks growth. When ego controls the mind, every lesson becomes a threat, and every teacher becomes a competitor. Ego cannot learn, it can only defend. When you empty yourself of ego, you become teachable. You stop comparing and start observing. you stop defending your limitations and start expanding your abilities. The strongest individuals are not those who cling to what they know. They are those who remain humble enough to continually learn. This concept applies not only to martial arts, but to life. If you are filled with fear, you cannot receive courage. If you are filled with doubt, you cannot receive strength. If you are filled with anger, you cannot receive peace. To gain a new state of being, you must release the old one. Letting go is the doorway to transformation. When I realized this, I stopped trying to force myself into predefined shapes. Instead of clinging to labels, styles, or expectations, I allowed myself to become whatever the moment required. This made me adaptable, creative, and free. Some think that emptiness means weakness, but the opposite is true. Emptiness is readiness. An empty mind is alert, flexible, and calm. It is not weighed down by the noise of judgment or fear. It can respond instantly and appropriately to any situation. In combat, the empty mind perceives without hesitation. It sees clearly because it is not clouded by past assumptions. In life, the empty mind is able to listen deeply because it is not busy rehearsing opinions. Emptiness creates clarity, and clarity is power. To empty yourself does not mean to abandon everything you have learned. It means holding what you know lightly, always prepared to refine it or replace it with something greater. Nothing is permanent. Everything can be improved. When you empty yourself, you honor this truth and position yourself to grow endlessly. You stop asking, "How do I protect what I know?" and begin asking, "How can I learn something deeper?" This shift is what allows ordinary individuals to become extraordinary. The journey toward mastery is not about collecting techniques or facts. It is about shedding everything that prevents you from seeing clearly. When you empty yourself, you become spacious enough to hold wisdom, still enough to listen, and open enough to transform. Only then can you step beyond who you were and become who you are meant to be. 6. Strengthen the parts of yourself you fear the most. Every one of us has areas within ourselves that feel uncomfortable to face. Weaknesses we try to hide, skills we avoid developing, and fears we pretend are not there. Most people spend their lives protecting these fragile places, building excuses and distractions around them so they never have to confront what feels difficult. But ignoring weakness does not make you strong. It only keeps you trapped. The truth is simple. The greatest growth always waits behind the door you are most afraid to open. When I trained, I paid close attention not only to what came naturally to me, but especially to the things that felt awkward, slow, or frightening. Those were the places where my limits lived, and I knew that if I ever wanted to break those limits, I had to face them directly rather than run from them. It is easy to repeat what you are already good at. There is comfort in familiarity. But comfort does not create mastery. Growth lives in discomfort. Strength is born from deliberate engagement with the parts of yourself that feel weak. I remember watching students who excelled in one technique repeat it over and over, celebrating their strengths while pretending not to notice the areas where they struggled. Their ego protected them from embarrassment, but it also protected them from progress. I chose a different path. If my kicks were strong but my grappling felt uncertain, I worked on grappling. If my left side lacked power compared to my right, I spent hours, days, months making the weaker side match the stronger. In doing so, I discovered that weakness is not a limitation. It is an invitation. It is the body and mind pointing at the next gateway of growth, saying, "Here, this is where you must go." But most people never accept that invitation. They tell themselves stories. "This is just not my thing. I am too old. It is too hard. I don't have talent." These beliefs become walls, but they are only made of thoughts, and thoughts can be changed. When you actively confront your weaknesses, something extraordinary happens. Your relationship with fear transforms. What once seemed threatening becomes familiar. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. The mind discovers that fear is not a signal to run. It is a signal to pay attention. I learned that fear often protects the most valuable treasures. The more resistance I felt toward a skill, the more I knew it was necessary for my growth. Every time I strengthened a weak area, I felt parts of my identity expand. My confidence grew, not because I mastered what I loved, but because I conquered what once terrified me. This process reshaped my entire being. I became versatile, unpredictable, and free, unbound by limitations that once tried to define me. Avoiding weakness creates vulnerability. Imagine a warrior who only trains the sword but ignores footwork. His strength becomes fragile because the moment he encounters a scenario outside his comfort, he collapses. The same is true for life. If you only develop what you enjoy, life will expose what you ignored. But if you strengthen your weakest links, you become whole. You become adaptable. You become someone who can stand firmly anywhere. This philosophy is not only physical, it applies to the mind and heart as well. If anger controls you, learn stillness. If self-doubt follows you, practice courage. If impatience dominates you, practice patience. Internal weaknesses are as important as external ones. The areas where you struggle emotionally are opportunities for inner breakthrough. Facing your weaknesses is not a one-time effort. It is a lifelong practice. There will always be parts of yourself that feel uncomfortable. But instead of seeing them as flaws, see them as guides. They point to where you must go next. Strengthening these parts does not mean rushing into perfection. It means showing up again and again with intention, curiosity, and humility. Small, consistent improvements compound over time, transforming the weakest part of you into a source of strength. I learned that the journey is never about becoming perfect. It is about becoming complete. A complete person does not fear their weaknesses because they have experienced the power of transformation. The process of confronting weaknesses also dissolves the ego. When you deliberately work on what you are not good at, you learn to value growth more than image, progress more than pride. This humility opens the mind. You become receptive to new techniques, new ideas, new perspectives. Instead of fearing challenges, you welcome them because you have learned that every challenge contains a gift. The mind becomes resilient, flexible, and confident, not because it avoids difficulty, but because it has trained itself to face it. Eventually, your weaknesses do not feel like threats at all. They become familiar landmarks on the path of self-development. Strength is not measured by how well you perform your best skill. Strength is measured by how fearlessly you develop the areas that make you uncomfortable. When you stand face to face with what scares you and choose to grow anyway, you unlock a level of inner power that no external challenge can take from you. This is where real mastery begins, in the willingness to transform the parts of yourself that feel the most fragile. Only by strengthening what is weak can you become a person who is whole, balanced, and unbreakable. 7. Learn from everyone, but never become anyone else. On the path of growth, you will meet teachers, masters, mentors, and influences from whom you will learn powerful lessons. There is nothing wrong in being inspired by others. In fact, the ability to absorb wisdom is one of the greatest strengths a person can cultivate. But the danger comes when you allow this inspiration to erase your individuality. Many people imitate the person they admire so completely that they become mere shadows, echoes without substance, reflections without life. They adopt someone else's voice, someone else's style, someone else's identity, believing that imitation will secure greatness. But greatness cannot be borrowed. It must be created from within. I learned from many different schools of martial arts in my life, but I refused to become trapped by any single form. Instead, I opened myself to every direction, learning what was useful, discarding what was not, and shaping my own expression from the pieces that resonated with who I was becoming. When I studied Wing Chun under the legendary Ip Man, I learned precision, structure, and understanding of internal energy. When I explored boxing, fencing, philosophy, and even dance, I learned the fluidity of movement and the power of creativity. But I did not allow these lessons to confine me. I allowed them to guide me toward the deeper truth. Every art, every teacher, every perspective has value, but no single perspective contains the whole truth. I absorbed what each had to offer, then transformed it through my own understanding. This is how Jeet Kune Do was born, not as another rigid system, but as an expression of freedom. I could have remained a pure copy of my teachers, and perhaps I would have been respected, but I would never have become myself. The world does not remember copies, it remembers originals. The pressure to conform begins early. Society teaches you to fit in, to imitate what is accepted, to follow the path others have walked. It rewards the familiar and punishes the different. Because of this, many people silence their unique inner voice. They fear judgment and seek safety in imitation. But once you begin shaping yourself according to someone else's expectations, you lose the invitation that life gave only to you, the invitation to become who you truly are. There will never be another person with your exact mind, heart, history, and potential. Copying another is not only limiting, it is a betrayal of the gift you have been given. You were not created to replicate, you were created to express. To learn from others is essential, but learning should expand you, not shrink you. When you encounter a powerful idea, do not accept it blindly. Examine it, compare it to your own understanding, and then integrate it in a way that aligns with who you are. Growth happens when knowledge becomes personal. For example, when I watched the movements of Western boxers, I noticed how fluidly they attacked with their hands, how quickly they shifted stances, and how fearlessly they closed distance. I studied these techniques, but I did not try to become a boxer. Instead, I asked myself, how can I combine this with Eastern martial principles? How can I make this movement express my philosophy? Through this process, the techniques became mine. They were transformed from borrowed motion into authentic expression. Individuality also demands that you trust your own experience. There were many times when people criticized my methods simply because they were unfamiliar. They wanted to protect their traditions, their systems, their identities, and felt threatened by anything new. But if I had allowed their voices to overpower my inner voice, I would have abandoned the path that ultimately transformed martial arts forever. It takes courage to step into unknown territory, especially when those around you resist change. Yet this courage is necessary if you wish to create rather than repeat. The world needs more creators, more people who think deeply, explore widely, and express freely, not more copies. There is a deep peace in finding your own way. When you stop trying to fit into someone else's mold, you begin living with authenticity. You no longer chase approval. You act from internal truth. You stop comparing yourself to others because you understand that everyone has a unique path, and comparison is meaningless when each person is meant to walk a different road. This realization frees you from jealousy and competition. You learn to celebrate others without feeling diminished because their success does not threaten your identity. You are rooted in your own becoming. This principle applies far beyond martial arts. Whether you are an artist, a student, a thinker, or a worker, the lesson is the same. Learn from every source, but do not lose yourself in the process. Let life shape you, but let your heart decide who you become. Too many people silence their creativity trying to imitate what has already been done. But what the world truly needs, what it always needs, is the courage of individuals who are willing to reveal their original self. When you stand firmly in your uniqueness, your presence gains a natural authority that no imitation can match. People will feel your authenticity, and they will remember you for it. I have always believed that the key to mastery is not in gathering more techniques, more titles, or more knowledge. It is in refining the connection between what you learn and who you are. When you take lessons from everywhere and allow them to pass through the filter of your spirit, what emerges is yours alone. This is your signature, your voice, your movement, your truth, and once you discover that, no one can take it from you. You stop playing roles and begin living with purpose. The greatest mistake a person can make is to spend their life becoming someone else when they were meant to become themselves. The purpose of learning is transformation, not imitation. The purpose of knowledge is liberation, not confinement. So learn from everyone, masters, strangers, life itself, but let every lesson bring you closer to your own essence. Let every experience shape you into someone deeper, freer, and more authentic. That is how you rise beyond being a reflection of another and become the only thing you were ever meant to be, yourself. 8. Simplicity is mastery. As you progress in any discipline, whether it is martial arts, study, business, or the art of living, you will notice something interesting. In the beginning, everything seems overwhelmingly complex. There are countless rules, techniques, theories, and methods to remember. You feel pressure to collect more knowledge, learn more skills, and constantly add new layers in order to become better. But the deeper you travel into true understanding, the more you begin to see that complexity is only the outer shell. At the core of every great practice, every great philosophy, every great mastery, lies simplicity. When I first began martial arts, I was fascinated by elaborate forms and dramatic movements. They looked impressive, powerful, and sophisticated. I enjoyed practicing them because they made me feel advanced. But as time passed and I began testing techniques in motion, in sparring, and in real combat scenarios, I realized that many flashy movements were impractical. They took too long, wasted energy, or required conditions that rarely exist in real situations. What remained consistently effective were the simple, direct movements delivered with precision and intention. The more deeply I trained, the more I stripped away what was unnecessary. My goal became not to add, but to remove, until only the essential remained. This understanding changed everything about how I trained and lived. Simplicity does not mean lack of depth. It means concentrated depth. It is not about doing less for the sake of laziness, but about focusing effort only where it truly counts. Many people complicate their lives because they believe complication makes them appear intelligent or accomplished. They hide behind jargon, routines, and structures to impress others. But true mastery is never about appearance. It is about effectiveness. In a fight, simplest movement delivered at the right time is more powerful than the most elaborate acrobatic sequence. The straight punch, executed with precision, can be more devastating than 1,000 decorative techniques. Life is the same. The simplest actions, consistently applied, waking early, training daily, staying disciplined, speaking honestly, will transform you more than any grand plan that is never executed. When I developed Jeet Kune Do, I chose not to define it as a style because defining it would limit it. It was not about accumulating techniques, but about freeing oneself from the burden of unnecessary movement. A punch should be a punch. A kick should be a kick. This sounds easy, but it requires deep refinement. You must unlearn habits, dismantle illusions, and remove ego from your practice. Only when you let go of what is unimportant can you see what truly matters. This process of simplification is not always comfortable. It demands honesty. You must confront the truth about what works and what does not. Sometimes what you enjoy practicing, because it looks impressive, must be surrendered because it has no true value. Many students struggle here. They cling to unnecessary complexity because it feels safe. Complexity gives them a sense of control, a sense of identity. But complexity without purpose is a cage. Simplicity is freedom. The principle of simplicity extends to the mind as well. A complicated mind is noisy, cluttered with thoughts, anxieties, and opinions. It struggles to see clearly because everything feels urgent and important. When the mind is tangled, decisions become difficult, reactions become slow, and perception becomes clouded. A simple mind is not empty, it is focused. It knows what matters and disregards what does not. In calm clarity, you can see reality as it is. You can respond to challenges with precision. You can act without hesitation. This mental simplicity is what allows mastery to arise spontaneously. Action becomes natural rather than forced. Effort becomes flowing rather than tense. In combat, thinking too much creates delay. Simplicity eliminates delay through clarity. To simplify your life, you must learn to let go. Let go of habits that drain you. Let go of relationships that pull you away from your purpose. Let go of unnecessary possessions that clutter your space. Let go of thoughts that complicate your peace. Modern society constantly tells you that more is better. More money, more attention, more possessions, more accomplishments. But if you look closely at those who are truly fulfilled, you will notice they value depth over quantity. They do fewer things, but they do them with complete devotion. They have fewer people around them, but those relationships are sincere. They speak less, but their words carry weight. They understand that life becomes richer when it becomes simpler. Simplicity is not the starting point. It is the destination. It is the refinement that comes from long experience, honest practice, and deep awareness. Beginners may think that doing more will make them better, but masters know that subtracting is the real art. Removing what is unnecessary reveals the essence. In martial arts, I discovered that the simplest movement is often the most effective because it wastes no time and no energy. It arrives before the opponent can react. Likewise, the simplest decisions in life, telling the truth, choosing discipline, practicing stillness, acting with compassion, carry extraordinary power because they align you with what is real. Complexity often serves to protect the ego. Simplicity exposes the truth. It takes courage to choose simplicity. You must be willing to stop impressing and begin understanding. You must be willing to stand alone when others chase elaborate illusions. But when you embrace simplicity, your mind becomes lighter, your actions become sharper, and your purpose becomes clearer. You begin to move through life with a sense of ease. You are no longer distracted by what does not matter, so you invest yourself fully into what does. This creates strength, clarity, and mastery that cannot be shaken. Simplicity brings you closer to reality, and reality is where true power lives. When your life becomes simple, your inner world becomes spacious, your energy becomes focused, and your spirit becomes free. That is the path of mastery, not in adding more, but in becoming less, until only the essential remains. 9. Pour your energy only into what you can actually control. One of the greatest sources of mental suffering is the human tendency to constantly obsess over things that lie outside their control. People spend enormous amounts of time worrying about the opinions of others, fearing future outcomes they cannot predict, replaying past mistakes they cannot change, and trying to influence circumstances that were never theirs to direct in the first place. This habit drains the spirit. It scatters the mind. It weakens the will. Throughout my journey, I discovered that the mind becomes powerful only when energy is directed inward, toward what can be shaped, strengthened, and improved. When you stop feeding what is outside your control, you free yourself from an invisible prison. You no longer live anxiously at the mercy of events. You begin to live intentionally, rooted in your own decisions. When I began sharing my philosophy, many people had opinions about how I should train, fight, or teach. Some admired me, others criticized me, and many tried to categorize me into a box so they could feel comfortable. If I had spent my days trying to prove myself to them, trying to win their approval or change their minds, I would have wasted precious time. Their thoughts about me were never mine to control. What I could control was my effort, my direction, and my evolution. So I focused entirely on that. I improved my craft, refined my understanding, and deepened my expression. Over time, my work spoke for itself, not because I tried to convince others, but because I committed myself to growth. That is the power of directing energy toward what you can control. Your life becomes purposeful rather than reactive. We often believe that by worrying, we somehow influence the outcome. But worry is a thief. It steals energy from the present moment, where your real power lies, and wastes it on imaginary scenarios that may never occur. When you obsess over the past, you freeze your mind in regret. When you obsess over the future, you become trapped in fear. Neither of these states allows life to move through you. The only place where action is possible, where transformation can happen, is here and now. To pour your energy into the past is to deny the present. To pour your energy into the future is to sacrifice clarity. Focus is lost. The mind becomes noisy. You end up exhausted without ever moving forward. The truth is simple, but uncomfortable. You cannot control how others feel about you. You cannot control the weather, the economy, the behavior of strangers, the thoughts of critics, or the opportunities life brings your way. You can only control your thoughts, your actions, and your responses. The moment you accept this truth, your life becomes lighter. You begin to see that peace is not about controlling the world, it is about mastering yourself. When something happens outside your control, breathe, observe, and choose your response deliberately. That choice is where your power lives. Emotional maturity is measured not by how well you control others, but by how well you govern your own reactions. During my training, I faced injuries, opposition, and disbelief. None of these circumstances were fully in my control. What I could control was how I responded. Whether I chose to surrender or continue, whether I allowed frustration to dominate or discipline to guide me. I learned that the strongest fighters in the world are not simply those with the fastest punches or the hardest kicks. They are the ones who have mastered their inner state. When your mind remains steady in the face of chaos, no external circumstance can break you. To direct your energy wisely, you must first become aware of where it is being lost. Notice how much time you spend wishing others would behave differently, hoping circumstances would change, or replaying what has already happened. Every moment spent on these thoughts is a moment stolen from growth. Imagine a plant wishing for different weather instead of focusing on extending its roots. It would never flourish. But the plant that adapts, that focuses on what it can do, grow deeper, stretch higher, survives even the harshest storms. Human beings are no different. When you anchor yourself in what you can do rather than what you cannot, you become resilient. There is great freedom in letting go. When you no longer carry the burden of trying to control everything, your mind becomes peaceful. You stop wasting energy on battles that have no reward. You begin to invest that energy into improving yourself, nurturing discipline, and cultivating inner strength. This transformation is subtle at first, but it becomes profound over time. With continued practice, you realize that control was never about force. It was about alignment. Life becomes simpler because you are no longer fighting against reality. You are working with it. This principle is not about passivity. It does not ask you to accept every situation without action. Instead, it asks you to take action where it matters most, within yourself. When your energy is focused inward, your external actions become more effective. You become strategic rather than scattered. Your ability to influence the world improves not because you try to manipulate it, but because you show up with clarity, strength, and intention. People respond differently to someone who is internally grounded. Opportunities appear not because you chase them, but because you are prepared to receive them. Life becomes far more powerful when you stop trying to control it and instead learn to respond to it with skill. You will still face uncertainty, difficulty, and change, but your mind will no longer be shaken. You will no longer feel like the world is something happening to you. You will feel like an active participant who knows how to move wisely within it. This is the essence of mental mastery, knowing where to place your attention, where to invest your energy, and where to let go. When you pour yourself only into what you can truly control, nothing outside of you can disturb your inner peace. You become calm within chaos, clear within confusion, and strong within struggle. That is when you discover that the mind, when directed properly, is the most powerful force you possess. 10. Let death be your reminder to live fully. Human beings fear death more than anything else, yet it is the one truth that unites us all. Every one of us is born with an invisible clock already ticking, and no matter how strong, wise, or wealthy we become, none of us can stop its movement. When people think of death, they usually feel anxiety, sadness, or denial. They push the thought away because it makes them uncomfortable. But when you refuse to face death, you also refuse to learn from it. I came to understand that death is not a threat. It is a teacher. It is not an enemy. It is a mirror reflecting the true value of life. And once you accept its presence, you stop wasting your time on the meaningless. There was a period in my life when I began to reflect deeply on how short our existence truly is. I saw people chasing status, arguing endlessly, holding grudges, and losing years to fear, as if they believed they were eternal. They postponed joy, postponed love, postponed change, always waiting for a better tomorrow. But tomorrow is not promised. A person who thinks he has unlimited time becomes careless with life. Death reminds us of urgency. It whispers, "Do not wait." When you understand that life is fragile, temporary, and unpredictable, your priorities transform. Small problems no longer seem large. Criticism loses its power. Fear loses its voice. The need to prove yourself to others fades away. You begin to value every moment, every breath, every opportunity to grow. When I trained, I carried this awareness with me. I understood that each movement could be my last, each day a gift. This did not make me sad. It made me alive. I acted boldly because hesitation is the luxury of those who believe they have forever. Mortality gave me clarity. Instead of worrying about whether something was difficult, I asked whether it was meaningful. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment, I created movement with the time I was given. Many people spend years planning, preparing, dreaming, but never doing. They are attached to comfort and terrified of risk. But if death is always near, then comfort is an illusion. The only real safety is in living fully. Death also teaches humility. No matter how strong your body becomes, how skilled your mind grows, or how high your reputation rises, death levels everything. It reminds you that titles, awards, possessions, none of it will follow you. What remains is who you became on the inside. Did you love deeply? Did you remain true to yourself? Did you use your time wisely? Did you live with purpose? These are the questions that matter. When I looked at life through the lens of death, I realized that success has nothing to do with how the world sees you and everything to do with how honest you are with yourself. You come into this world with nothing, and you leave with nothing but the truth of who you are. Death also teaches you the value of presence. Most people live in memory or imagination, regretting the past or fearing the future, and miss the moment right in front of them. But life only happens now. If you are not here, you are nowhere. When you sit with someone you love, be there. When you train, be there. When you speak, be there. The present moment is where life unfolds, and awareness of death brings your attention back to presence. You begin to notice details, the feeling of sunlight on your skin, the rhythm of your breath, the stillness of the mind, the quiet beauty of existence. These small things become extraordinary when you realize they may not come again. When you accept death, you stop holding on to fear. Many people never pursue their dreams because they fear failure or judgment. But when you remember that one day you will no longer be here, you see clearly. Failure is temporary. Regret is eternal. The world will forget your mistakes, but you will remember the chances you did not take. So take them, test your limits, explore new paths, create something with your time. Every experience, even the painful ones, shapes you. At the end, you will not regret what you tried and failed. You will regret what you wanted but never attempted. Death also transforms your relationships. You stop wasting your life fighting, competing, or proving. You let go faster. Forgiveness becomes easier because you realize how limited time truly is. You see that anger only hurts you, that pride blocks connection, and that love is the only meaningful thing strong enough to outlast death's shadow. You begin to speak more honestly, appreciate others more deeply, and treat every encounter as something sacred. You learn that people are not permanent. Moments are not permanent. Everything you love is temporary. That is what makes it beautiful. This awareness does not make life darker. It makes life brighter. When you stop fearing death, you stop fearing life. You embrace experience fully, the joy and the pain, the success and the failure, because you understand everything has value. Death gives life contrast, the way night gives meaning to day. Without death, life would lose its urgency. Without endings, beginnings would lose their magic. People ask how to live without fear. The truth is, fear disappears when you accept the one thing you cannot escape. When you stop resisting death, you stop resisting life. You understand that your purpose is not to avoid the end, but to make the journey meaningful. Every action becomes intentional. Every choice becomes deliberate. You live with a kind of intensity that only awareness of impermanence can create. Let death be the reminder that your time is precious. Let it sharpen your focus. Let it strip away distraction. Let it push you toward authenticity. Let it free you from hesitation. One day, your flame will go out, but until then, let it burn brightly. Live so fully that when the final moment arrives, you meet it not with regret, but with peace, knowing that you did not merely exist, but truly lived. Strength of mind is not something granted at birth. It is something forged through choice, experience, and disciplined awareness. Throughout my life, I learned that the greatest battles are not fought in the arena or on the streets or even against another person. They are fought within the self. Your thoughts, your fears, your habits, your attachments, your resistance, your illusions. These are the true opponents. When you stop surrendering to the noise of your inner world and begin shaping it with intention, you discover a level of freedom that cannot be taken away by anyone or anything. Nothing I shared with you is theoretical. These are truths I lived. I failed, I doubted, I feared. I faced injury, criticism, and loss. I encountered limits I didn't expect and ceilings I had to break through, but every hardship revealed something deeper about the mind and spirit. I learned that a strong body means little without a strong mind guiding it. A powerful strike is worthless if doubt controls the heart behind it. Real mastery, the kind that endures, comes not from perfect technique, but from inner clarity. You are responsible for your own becoming. No teacher, no mentor, no system can do the work for you. Others may open doors, but only you can walk through them. When you accept this truth, you stop waiting for motivation and begin building discipline. You stop trying to escape difficulty and begin embracing it. You stop trying to be someone else and begin becoming yourself. This is the path to mental strength. A lifelong practice of shaping your inner world so that it supports your outer actions. The rules you have heard are not meant to be memorized. They are meant to be lived. Challenge your thoughts. Learn from pain. Walk away from meaningless conflict. Choose discipline over impulse. Empty yourself so you can grow. Strengthen your weaknesses. Learn from everyone, yet remain true to yourself. Simplify until only what matters remains. Focus only on what you can control. And remember always that death is the mirror that shows you how to live. If you live by these principles, you will not be easily broken. The world may try to shake you, but you will stand firm. Not because life is easier, but because you are stronger. Your mind will become the sword that cuts through confusion, fear, and doubt. Your heart will become fearless, not because you never fail, but because failure no longer defines you. You will live with presence, clarity, and purpose. That is the true victory. In the end, the greatest triumph is not defeating another. It is mastering yourself. Only then can you move freely, act without hesitation, and live without regret. And when your final moment comes, you will know that you did not merely pass through life. You lived it with your whole being. Be true, be awake, be your own master.